Do you need some ideas for easy gifting this holiday season? Then let me show you how to turn some inexpensive Dollar Tree candles into the perfect DIY gifts inspired by the flavors of the holidays. For the first DIY, I added 3 apple cinnamon candles to a saucepan filled with water. I took the pan to the stove and turned the burner to low-medium heat and allowed the candles to melt fully. This took about 10 to 15 minutes. Once the wick was glued in place, I wrapped the end of the wick around a pencil and rested the pencil on the edge of the glass. For this particular cup, I used about 2.5 candles worth of wax, or 7.5 ounces. I added a cinnamon stick to the side, followed by a dry orange slice, then a star anise, then allowed the candle to cool fully. For the second DIY gift, I added 4 eucalyptus candles to a saucepan filled with water, again making sure that there was 1 to 2 inches of the vessel above the water. Once the wax was fully melted, I removed the pan from the burner and allowed the candles to cool for 10 minutes. I poured 3 candles or 12 ounces worth of wax into the glass, then added 25 drops of peppermint essential oil. I allowed the wax to cool. I sprinkled some cocoa powder to the top, then added 2 mint leaves. For the last DIY gift, I added 3 vanilla candles to a saucepan, filled it with water, making sure there was 1 to 2 inches of the vessel sticking out, and then melted the wax over low-medium heat. Next, I added ground cinnamon to a plate, then applied super glue around the rim of the glass. I placed the rim of the glass into the cinnamon, making sure to cover the entire rim and a little bit on the sides of the cup. Once the wax was cool and the glue was dried, I poured the melted wax into the cup, then added 20 drops of sugar cookie essential oil. I let the wax dry fully until it changed color but wasn't fully solid, then added a cinnamon stick to the side of the cup and sprinkled the top with more ground cinnamon. I'm so excited about how these DIY candles came out that were inspired by some classic holiday drinks like mulled cider, the grasshopper, and eggnog.
Here's a really fun fall DIY using these simple dollar store candles. Start by bringing a pot of water to a boil on your stove, and then set one of your candles right down into the hot water. While your wax is melting, grab your pack of candle wicks. You'll want to secure the metal tabs to the bottom of your container with a small dot of hot glue. Then you just stick your wicks inside those metal tabs and you're good to go. Once your candle is melted, carefully remove it from the hot water and pour it into your container. To keep your wicks upright, you can use a couple of skewers or pencils of some sort across the top of your jar to hold them in place while the wax hardens. While that first layer of wax cools, melt your second candle in the pot of hot water the same way. I decided to go for a candy corn inspired color scheme since it's fall, but this could be customized to any color that you like. Trim the wicks down to about 1/4 inch tall, and your candle is ready to use. Just look how beautiful this turned out. The layers look so high-end, and no one would ever guess that this custom candle was made from simple dollar store candles.
Stop by the dollar store and pick up some tall, pink jar candles. While you are there, buy some of the smaller candle wax bricks in apple red. Fire up your stovetop and start to break up the wax bricks into smaller pieces. Toss them into a pan and watch them start to melt. Once the wax has melted, take a plastic syringe, you can find these at big box stores or on Amazon, and draw up the wax into the tube. Push the wax from the syringe into silicone molds with a 3D strawberry shape. These are reasonably priced and can be found on Amazon. At this point, the wax strawberries are set enough so you can just pop them out of the mold. It's amazing how much detail there is in the strawberries and how realistic they look. Take several candle wicks and attach a sticker pad to the bottom. Press them onto the bottom of a pie plate or tart pan in an arrangement that you like. Next, fill a high-sided pan with water. Turn the heat to medium-high and place the glass jar candles into the pan. As the water heats and boils, the candle jars heat up and the wax will melt. Once the wax has completely melted, hold the candle jar with a hot pad and pour the melted wax into the pie plate with attached wicks. Once all of the wax has been poured and the wax has cooled for just a couple of minutes, remove the bamboo grid and start to gently press the wax strawberries into the top of the wax in the pie plate. Place the wax strawberries in any design that you like. Then give the wicks a quick trim with some scissors. Place your new strawberry candle on a tray or pedestal and light the candle with matches.
What can you do with faux snow and tea lights? Let's see. You want to open the tea light package and remove your tea lights. Pull gently on the wick to pull it out of the little tin container. Place as many tea lights as you think you need in the saucepan. I will tell you, melt more than you think you need. I had to do it twice. And bring the water to a boil. And once it's boiling, you want to adjust it to a high simmer. While your candles are melting, make sure you have 2 pieces of parchment or wax paper on a half-sheet pan. Then remove the container with the melted wax from the heat and let it rest for a few minutes. Pour enough wax on the parchment paper to surround your cookie cutter, and then set your cookie cutter on the wax and press down. This step seals the wax around the cookie cutter. At this point, I realized I needed more wax, so always melt more than you think you need. And after you've melted your wax and let it cool just a bit, fill in the cookie cutters almost to the very top. Now the wicks on the Dollar Tree tea lights are really short, so I waited to add them to the top layer of the wax, and that way they stood up better. Now to use my faux snow. For the last bit of wax, I added the faux snow from the Dollar Tree to the melted wax and stirred the mixture and poured that onto the very top layer of the wax that had already was almost set in my cookie cutters. I wanted a little shine, and I thought this would probably add some. Now let your cookie cutters sit for another, say, 10 minutes. And once that's done, you can pop off the excess wax from around your cookie cutters. Now I knew how I wanted to display my snowflake cookie cutters, so I left the candles in the metal cookie cutters, and you'll see why. So the first thing I did was place my cookie cutters, my snowflake cookie cutters, on a Pyrex pie plate. Then I surrounded them with more faux snow, making sure to get no snow under the cookie cutter candle. This is why I left the candles in the wax, because I knew I was going to surround it with snow. Next, I used one of my favorite silver trays. Be sure that it's polished. I took a length of garland and made it into a wreath shape and set it inside the tray. Then I set the pie plate inside the tray and added some little pink and blue small Christmas ornaments. What a pretty little display, and I can't wait for nighttime.
Grab yourself some candles from the dollar store, and we're going to make them very pretty. Quite simply, I'm using acrylic paint in a pretty little plum colour and a very tiny artist paintbrush, and I'm making a 5-petaled flower. I'm going to paint that up and down and all around the candle. When the flowers are dry, add in a little dot of yellow paint into the centre of each to give them a definition. And then picking up some green paint, I'm making a little suggestion of a couple of leaves on each flower. Put them in different places to change them up a bit. Now I've got some lavender blue paint on my palette, and using a tiny paintbrush again, I'm making a different flower shape with little dots, getting gradually smaller as I go up. Do this all up and down the candle as before. When you've gone all around the candle with the lavender blue and you've got your flower shape, then I picked up some of the pink paint and added in a few little dots just on one side of the flower. Then, cleaning my brush, I picked up some green paint and added in a stalk. Using a white acrylic pen, I'm adding in some dots on the other side of the flower to give it more definition. Now on my palette, I've got some orange paint and some shocking pink paint, and I'm going to make a suggestion of a tulip shape. Make them random, make them different, and go all up and down again with the orange paint. And then go back and pick up some pink paint and add that in, sometimes in the middle and sometimes on the edges. Then I mix some of the yellow paint in with the green paint to make a fresher green, and added in a stalk and a suggestion of a leaf to each of my flowers. And here are my finished candles. I think they make a really neat idea for a gift. Just tie them up with a little bit of raffia, And if you don't want to use real candles to paint, you can actually do this same thing on battery-operated ones. And here are a couple of examples. I hope you've enjoyed this and you're inspired to have a go to paint your own candles.
Head to Dollar Tree and pick up patterned tissue paper, glass pillar candles, and a clear bowl. Take the patterned tissue paper, cut a sheet into a square, and then cut the corners at an angle. Use Mod Podge and a sponge brush to apply the tissue paper to the bowl, on the back side wrapping it around the top. Take pillar candles and melt them down in a double boiler slowly. Take candle wicks and hot glue them into place on the inside of the bowl. Once the wax has melted, slowly pour it into the bowls. Support the wicks with wood skewers to prevent them from falling back into the wax. Once the wax dries, cut the wicks to be the appropriate size. Then you can light them. There you have it, a cheap way to create your own chic Anthropologie dupe candle on a budget.
Are you looking for ways to decorate with taper candles? To start this DIY, separate the layers of a patterned paper napkin. Once separated, cut the paper napkin as needed to fit the length of your taper candle. Mine just needed a little trimming for this particular taper. Then cut the napkin to fit the diameter of your candle. Now we are going to actually iron the paper napkin onto the taper. Heat and iron to medium-low heat, not too hot. Wrap the napkin around the candle and gently press against the iron plate. Emphasis on gently. Don't press too hard or you might have a waxy mess on your hands. Keep rolling until the candle is completely wrapped in the napkin. Let the candle cool, it doesn't take very long, and start to use in your own home decor. Remember, have fun choosing your favorite colors and patterns in the paper napkins that you use. Another way to spruce up a taper candle is to give it a little twist. Fill a heat-safe container with hot water at a temperature between 100 and 110 degrees. Place a taper candle, and I will tell you a paraffin candle works best for this, in the hot water and let sit for 10 minutes. Periodically roll the candle in the water so that the heat is evenly distributed. After 10 minutes, pull the candle from the water and dry off excess water with a towel, and then wrap the candle in some wax paper. Take a rolling pin and press down on the middle of the candle. Using some strong and consistent pressure, flatten the middle part of the candle. Once the middle section is flattened, take the candle and gently twist it into the shape that you want. With a larger candle, I like to get 2 or 3 twists in the center, but have fun and create your own twisted pattern. When you get the twist that you want, place the candle in cold water and this will set the candle in its new shape. Then, have fun displaying your new twisted taper candle. For the last project, take painter's tape and tape off sections or stripes on a taper candle. Make sure that the edges are pressed down securely on the edges of the tape. Go with skinny stripes or wide stripes, evenly measured stripes, or go crazy with different widths in your stripes. Once taped off, paint light coats of acrylic paint in the open sections of the candle in the color or colors of your choice. Continue to paint light layers until you get the color that you want. The key is in going with light layers instead of trying to paint heavily the first time. Let dry completely. A taper candle is beautiful by itself, but can have a great impact when combined with other tapers. Try displaying them in odd-numbered groupings and vary the height of your candlesticks. A variety of colors, textures, and patterns make the display even more interesting and unique. I hope this inspired you to have some fun sprucing up ordinary taper candles. Thanks for watching Home Talk, and see you next time.